I'm sure that's not unusual for people, but yeah, welcome anyway, and thank you for your patience. We're just got a few housekeeping rules. If you do have uh, any sort of particular questions at any relevant time, please obviously pop your hand up and we'll come to you accordingly. If you could switch off your camera if you do not wish to be filmed, because the meeting will be recorded. And obviously apparently don't put your hand up if you've got any questions. If you could pop it into the chat, that means we could be able to get back to you even if it's after the meeting. As we go through, there will be times when we'll be asking for a proposer and a seconder. Sometimes that will come from a trustee, quite often they do, but we'll also be looking for seconders. So if you would like to second anything, please also feel free to pop that in the chat, and Jane and Alison, our area managers, will help coordinate some of that. Tracy will help us with some of the IT stuff as we go along, and if there are any issues, obviously Tracy will be on standby to make sure that we can move as smoothly as we possibly can. She'll also be trying to do that alongside giving the annual report. So without further ado, I will hand over to Andrew, our chair, to commence the annual general meeting.
Hello, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. Can I welcome you all to this, our annual general meeting? In particular, I'd like to welcome the mayors, leaders, councillors from the local authorities within Warwickshire and Solihull, and the representatives of public bodies, and of course, all our members from the voluntary and charitable organisations across Warwickshire and Solihull. This is our 5th virtual AGM, and we're still having problems with it. And I know some people have raised issues about doing AGM on a virtual basis and made the entirely valuable point that people do miss out on the networking and socializing that used to go on when we met face to face. So we're going to keep this under review and at least seek to find some way of recapturing that element of networking and socialization that we've had in the past, whether as part of the AGM or separately. So thanks for those who've raised that as an issue. It's an entirely valid one, and we will give it some attention. Today, you'll also receive a presentation on our financial performance. Finance covers everything, doesn't it? Without it, we can't get on. So let me now proceed with the formal business of the AGM. Karen, I think we've got a number of apologies. Would you just like to give those apologies?
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, we've received apologies from Charles Barlow, Sarah Duxbury, both from Warwickshire County Council, Bill Hancox, the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth, Colin Hayworth, the Mayor of North Warwickshire, and Lorraine Burrell from North Warwickshire Citizens Advice. We've also received apologies from Kate Morrison and the Lord Lieutenant Timothy Cox.
Thanks, Karen. If anybody knows of anybody else who would give their apologies who wasn't in that list, well, please do use the chat box so we've got a record of a formal apology. With that, I'll move on to the approval of last year's minutes at the last year's AGM. CAVA members will have received a copy, and I hope everybody's had a chance to review those. Can I ask, please, for a proposer and a seconder that we accept those minutes as an accurate record of the 2023 meeting? If proposer and seconder can please make an entry into the chat box.
We have a proposer from Claire Spears.
Thank you.
And a seconder from Cheryl Rawbone.
Thank you. So I will take it that those are approved unless somebody makes a quick entry into the chat box to tell me that they're not happy with those minutes. I'll just give a moment. On that basis, then those minutes for last year's meeting are approved. I will now move on to ask Tracy Southam, one of our area managers, to present an overview of some of the achievements of the past year and the key highlights from our annual report. So over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Andrew. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, I can, Tracy.
So as Andrew's introduced me, I'm Tracy Southern, one of the leadership team at CAVA, and I'm pleased to present an overview of the delivery undertaken by our team in 2023-2024. Thank you to our team for their reporting updates to aid production of the report and their hard work delivering the breadth of services offered by CAVA. And I must note an extra thanks to Owen, who does such a wonderful job making our report look as wonderful as it does. The report and our accounts are both now available on the website. We did notice a small typo after we published them, so there will be a hot off the press version later today. So do pop along and read that. I would commend you look at all the case studies and stuff that are in the report. So first project on our update is our Warwickshire infrastructure delivery. You'll see from the infographics that we had another busy year as a project team. Our delivery on our Warwickshire infrastructure delivery is funded by Warwickshire County Council, Warwick District Council, Rugby Borough Council, Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, and we also have some investment from the Coventry and Warwickshire Integrated Care Board. We have teams located across all the districts and boroughs of Warwickshire. Delivery in Nuneaton and Bedworth and North Warwickshire is overseen by my colleague Alison Thompson, also on this call, and I oversee our delivery in Stratford District, Warwick District and Rugby Borough. So between us, we look after the whole of the Warwickshire area. We're very ably supported by our two delivery and development managers, Pippa and Sarah, and we also have funding group development officers and volunteering coordinators working across each locality. For our Warwickshire contract, we've also had delivery partnerships with Coventry and Warwickshire Cooperative Development Agency, who've supported us with some bespoke social enterprise activity, and also Grapevine, Coventry and Warwickshire, who have supported some social action work in Camp Hill in the reporting year. Our teams have continued to provide support around volunteering and links to organisations and volunteers via our online matching database, Simply Connect. Our staff also do a range of outreach and one-to-ones for volunteers that need additional support. As you'll note from the statistics that I shared previously, we had 1,211 volunteers that were placed during the reporting year, which brought just under £4,100,000 of investment back to the infrastructure of Warwickshire. We had 1,752 volunteers that accessed our services, and that resulted in the 1,211 that were placed. And 996 of those volunteers were placed in roles that helped in community settings, so building that self-resilience within community. We were also really pleased through the work of Jane and our volunteering coordinators to achieve the Voluntary Centre Quality Accreditation mark through NAVCA, which was a real success indicator for the support we provide around volunteering. Our Solihull delivery is overseen by Jane Holdsworth, who is our third Musketeer area manager. We're pleased to confirm that our contract with Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council has been recommissioned and commenced in October 2024. During 2023-24, the team supported 140 organisations, delivered a staggering 60 events and engaged with 3,569 attendees, and placed 112 volunteers, which brought just under £400,000 of economic value of investment back into the Solihull area. A highlight of the year was the Future Focus event, which was attended by just under 60 people. Sessions were delivered during that event on funding, recruitment and volunteering, and in the afternoon there was a focus on collaboration and partnership working across the voluntary community and social enterprise sector and wider private and public sectors. We were also pleased to organise, in partnership with ICE, the West Midlands Social Economy Drive, which was a first time hosting in the area. We've updated annually on our Big Local programmes. Big Local is a national programme of 150 areas across England who were awarded £1 million to make their areas better places to live. In Warwickshire, we have two areas that CAVA gives support to. Arley and Annesley in North Warwickshire, and Hilltop and Cardwell in Nuneaton and Bedworth. Both of these resident-led schemes end in the next 18 months, but in the meantime, we've continued to invest in low-cost or free activities aimed at children and young people, from youth clubs and holiday craft sessions to coach trips and family food throughout the school holidays. Both areas have also agreed to work in partnership with other statutory organisations on large capital projects. Old Arley saw the installation of new equipment in parks and have committed to part fund a new sports pavilion in New Arley. And HTC will be a major funder of a complete refurbishment of an existing neighbourhood playground area. Our next programme is our Bishopton and Clopton Community Builder. I selected this image because most of our community work runs not only on food but also on fun. And I just love the joy in the faces of these two wonderful trustees from the centre. So our community builder delivery in Bishopton and Clopton was recommissioned in 2024 by Stratford District Council, Stratford Town Council and Stratford Town Trust. But for the reporting period, we were also supported by Orbit. Rachel Knight, the outgoing community builder, delivered a wide range of events and activities, working in collaboration with the Ken Kennet and Bishopton Community Centres, which are 2 areas of Stratford, supporting 5 themes of community safety and housing, environmental action, community activities, health and resilience within the voluntary community and social enterprise sector. Activities have included a partnership programme with Net Zero to deliver a weekly cafe, warm hubs at both of the community centres, a seated exercise class, and 2 very exciting trips to Bletchley Park and Cotswold Farm Park. The Talking Rubbish Conference was also held with 100 attendees from across the area, including organisations such as Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, Severn Trent and the Shakespeare Lions. We were fortunate to have a partnership project that sadly ended in March for the community mental health transformation, which was delivered in partnership with Voluntary Action Coventry, who are an equivalent body to us in Coventry area. The programme supported the investment of £655,700 to 38 organisations via an innovation fund. These programmes supported 3,500 people across 1,300 sessions and resulted in 4,358 hours of support. The team built a network of 140 VCSE providers across Coventry and Warwickshire. A raft of training was also delivered to the sector to build skills and capacity, such as social media, safeguarding, mental health, and there was a wider legacy piece with the establishment of a counselling organisations network group and also the living evaluation of the programme. There was a smaller grant fund administered for micro grants, which issued just under 23,000 for smaller projects under £1,000 in the area. Our 3 Villages Youth Project, as we can see, had a lot of fun at Christmas and are a partnership with the Ex-Mining Villages group in North Warwickshire, which continued in the reporting period, which allowed them to secure funds to deliver essential youth work sessions in the rural communities of Hartshill, Hurley and Dordon. Whilst the formal partnership is coming to an end, we've enabled the legacy of this project by supporting a new social enterprise startup, and we hope to see that partnership thrive and that work to continue for many years to come. Big part of our role is around advocacy and representation, And within the reporting year, we've done quite a lot of engagement around the emerging health sector. So in our advocacy role for the sector, we undertake a significant amount of representation work, which includes supporting the integration of the voluntary community, faith and social enterprise sector into health and social care, which is an integrated care system in both Coventry and Warwickshire, and the Solihull aspect of the Birmingham and Solihull integrated care system. Development of the collaborative for the voluntary community, faith and social enterprise sector, which enables the sector to engage with health priorities and look at collaborative approaches to community engagement and delivery. That's across Coventry and Warwickshire. We do representation work across place and wider systems in both Coventry, Warwickshire, Birmingham and Solihull. We act as a lead for the research engagement network, which is linked to health research, to communities enabling public-led research. And we chair the ICS community involvement network across the system, enabling partners, including the voluntary community, faith and social enterprise sector, to share good practice, insights and methodologies around population and patient voice. CAVA continues to be very proud of our new town centre in Nuneaton, which is a community centre in the heart of the Nuneaton town centre. It continues to welcome thousands of visitors 7 days a week, almost 365 days a year. We host the town's main phlebotomy services, retinal eye screening, health checks, Warwickshire Vision weekly sessions, English as a second or other language classes, adult community learning, a Sky Blues in the community exercise referral programme, and the Chater Dance Academy. Not all at the same time in the same room, obviously, because that would be quite a feat, which has been operating from the new town for over 40 years. Each year we proudly host an uneaten Christmas lunch. This year, nearly 80 people who would usually be alone on Christmas enjoyed a full Christmas lunch, entertainment, and every guest received a gift as well. Next one's our Stratford Social Inclusion Project, which is delivered by Chris Freeman. We are very grateful to Stratford District Council who fund this development work. Across the year, Chris supported 71 organisations, and funding applications were submitted to a total of just under £2.2 million. Funding secured in the year at the time of reporting was £475,885, which brought the project to a staggering £1,305,547 being secured for groups across Stratford District to date, which is a really great piece of work. The Social Fabric Fund. So through additional funding from Warwickshire County Council, we've developed a package of support to the sector to ensure the authority receives well-rounded applications to its Social Fabric Fund from organisations supporting residents across the 22 lower super Alp areas, and that work's been delivered by Tom Udell and Michelle Black. Our focus has not just been on the technical skills of writing funding applications, but a more bespoke offer, including project design, legacy building and governance guidance. During the period, the fund had received over £5 million in applications from across the county. Their success will ensure the fund builds a framework of support that will upskill, improve and progress the sector across the 22 lower super Alp areas. And that's the end of my slides. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Tracy. People sometimes ask, what does CAVA do? And it's an infrastructure organisation, isn't it? Well, those words, I think, are often meaningless, but I think what Tracy has presented gives the real nature of what CAVA does, what it's involved with, what it does in partnership and liaison with other people. It's not easy to sum it up in a single sentence, but it is very wide-ranging. It is very, very effective. And thanks, Tracy, for that really good overview. With that, I'll move on to the review and our annual accounts. And can I introduce from our auditors, Burgess and Bullock, Wendy Hubbard, who will give a presentation on these things.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. I think you've all had a link to the full statutory accounts for the year ended 31st of March 2024, which includes our formal audit report. And that confirms that there are no matters that we believe should be brought to the attention of the members. I will now present a brief overview of the key items within those accounts on behalf of the board. Thank you, Tracy. If I have the first slide. Is it not moving?
Which is Wendy, I'll try again. It was moving along for me. Just one moment. Is that showing a second slide for everyone now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so there's no doubt, as many of you will be aware, that income remains a challenge in the not-for-profit sector. You will see here from these graphs that CAVA managed to maintain the same level of income in 2024 as it did in the previous year, and that's amounting to just over £1.5 million. Obviously, the stability reported here is mainly due to the continuing contracts with the local authorities for the organisation's core activities, which Tracy has just alluded to. However, it is also important to remember that these contracts are subject to periodic retendering, so they're not a given. The pie charts at the bottom are showing you the split between restricted income, and that is income that's provided for specific projects, and unrestricted income, which the board may spend on supporting the organisation's charitable activities. And you can see from there that the proportions remained identical year on year. Thank you. So if we turn to expenditure now, you'll see that the overall level of expenditure increased by some £200,000 in the year, which has led to a reported deficit of nearly £82,000 compared to a reported surplus last year of £124,000. Move to the next slide, Tracy, please. Thank you. So where did that increase in expenditure come from? Well, I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that the bulk of it, 120,000 of it, related to increased employment costs. A new pay policy was introduced during the period. And of course, given the recent budget announcements, I think it's unlikely that we will see a reversal of this trend. Other overheads also show smaller increases. That's mainly indicative of the impact of continuing high inflation rates during the reporting period, as well as the increasing cost of administrating projects and the provision of grant funding for those projects. So overall, as I say, there was an increase of £200,000 in that expenditure pot. So moving on to at the end of the year, these are the reserves that the organisation hold at that point in time. They're made up of various funds. There are endowment funds. These were those that were created as permanent assets when the charity was first set up. There are restricted funds, and these represent the balance of income that's yet to be spent on specific projects. And then there are unrestricted funds, which the board have available to support the general activities of the organisation. You will see from the chart that obviously unrestricted funds have fallen, and this is a direct result of the deficit for the year. The organisation relies on these unrestricted funds to cover its core costs, so it is important to maintain these at an appropriate level. The next slide will show you the makeup of those reserves at the end of the financial year. And as you can see, they have now just dipped below the £1 million mark. Over half of that balance is within the restricted fund balance, which means income has been received for these specific projects, but not yet spent. And you see I've listed there the top 10 largest amounts that are being held in restricted funds at that date. The next slide is showing you how these funds are made up. They're obviously represented by various assets. The endowment fund is mainly made up of the Leamington property, and whereas the restricted funds are mainly held in bank balances, which you would expect given the nature of the income that we've just spoken about. The unrestricted reserve at 31st of March 2024 was made up of property, but it also had a deficit of cash or what we would call liquid funds at that point in time. However, shortly after the year end, the rugby premises that were included in the unrestricted reserve were sold. And so the proceeds have now been released into unrestricted liquid reserves. And finally, what do all of those numbers reveal and tell us? Well, they actually show us how the organisation has managed to fund and provide the great services that we've just heard about from Karen, and which are also described in some detail in the annual report itself. And this is despite the continuing financial pressures which are affecting the sector and society as a whole. Thank you.
Phil, are you going to move to a
Yes,
formal?
Andrew. Can I thank Wendy for that, and say particularly, Wendy, how the team have appreciated your support and critique throughout the year. A lot of work goes into it, and I know Ruby benefits enormously from the help of you and your staff. So thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you.
With that, I'd like to propose the director's report and financial statements for the year ending the 31st of March and the auditor's report to the meeting.
And do we have a seconder, please, into the chat box for that? Have we? Yeah, we've got a seconder. So with that, I will now put those financial things to the vote of members. If you can please signify your approval again into the chat box.
Cheryl Rawborn is approving. And Bob Armstrong is also approving.
Is anybody not approving?
Nobody's not approving.
Okay. Well, on that basis, I will take that as an approval vote. I think with that and can I thank Wendy as well for all her support over the year. Very sympathetic to us, I think, as a voluntary sector organisation and with understanding of the particular challenges that we face. So thank you. And with that, can I ask Phil to deal with the appointment of auditors for the next financial year?
Yeah, we need to formally appoint the auditors for 2024-25. And I propose that Burgess and Bullock be reappointed as auditors and that we authorise the directors to fix their remuneration.
And if I can have a seconder, please, again into chat box for that. Yeah, have we got a seconder? Yeah.
Claire Spears.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I will assume, unless I see anything different into a chat box, that is approved. Okay. With that, can I hand back to you, Karen, to deal with nominations and appointments of directors?
Andrew, yeah, we've got a bit of a busy list to get through here. Just to let members know that during the year we received one resignation, and that was from Guy Other, and that was due to a relocation to live in a different county. As part of our constitution, in line with the retire by rotation rule, a third or nearest to 1/3, at present we have 7 trustees of the board will retire annually. That does not necessarily mean they all retire 100%. It means their particular term in office comes up for renewal. These 2 trustees due to retire by rotation are Claire Spires and Judith Wildig. Both candidates will stand for another 3 years, and the board has accepted this under their re-election term. We also have another trustee, a very long-term trustee, who will be retiring from the board this year. She's served a good number of years, not just as a trustee, but I believe been supporting CAVA going back 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not quite sure myself, but our dear Sheila has kindly stayed on as a trustee for another year while we move towards putting together a new strategy for our EDI plan going forward. Just personal thanks to Sheila, and I know Jane in particular will also say a big thank you for all the support she gives to us around that particular strategic area of our work. But I think on this, we can't let Sheila go without passing back to Andrew to give his thanks to her during her time in office.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I have known Sheila for a very, very long time, long before I was involved with CAVA, when I was working for a local authority. Sheila is a true force of nature with that energy and commitment that inspires others to contribute to their local communities. She's made a really significant contribution to CAVA over the years. As Karen has said, she's championed diversity, but not just through words. I think it's through actions, and that's what really counts. I think, Sheila, you've been an example to us all from the way that you conducted yourself in not just in CAVA, but in the local community within Warwickshire. You've done such an immense amount of really, really good work. And with that, Sheila, can we wish you all the best for the future? I'm sure we will find plenty of opportunity to meet up with you again and to join with you again in doing work, even though you stand down as a trustee. So yes, on behalf of everybody who's attending today, can I give you heartfelt thanks for all your contribution over the years? Thank you. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we have one new candidate to be elected to the board this year, and we are currently in the process of recruiting a trustee with a financial background on after the retirement of Guy Other. This year, however, we welcome Sarah Weir-Smith. Sarah joins us from the primary care sector, which is going to be a huge benefit to the board and to the wider CAVA as we move through this new age of the integrated care system. I'd like to introduce Sarah to you, and hopefully she'll be able to work with us around reducing health inequality. I now hand back to Andrew and invite him to undertake the formal voting process to bring Sarah Weir-Smith to the board.
Again, if I can have a formal nomination and seconding of that into the chat box, please.
Judith is
I can see I've got a
proposing.
proposer. Have I got a seconder?
Yes,
Yeah, I've got a
Cheryl is
seconder.
seconding.
And again, I will, unless I see differently, assume that is everybody is happy with that proposal. And yeah, can I formally welcome a new trustee? We do need a team of people. You know, it's the ultimate volunteering being a trustee. So great. Karen, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Which is very poignant for this next section. As many of you will be aware, the board have accepted Andrew's intention to step down as our chair at this particular AGM. And I know, Andrew, you've given this a lot of thought, and you've done it in the best interest of the organisation, enabling us to move forward through a succession plan that enables our longevity and sustainability as a board into the future. I'd like to give my own personal thanks to you, Andrew, as your Chief Executive, to say it's been a joy to work alongside you, both as a strategic lead, but also as my line manager. And you've put up with me and guided me successfully through this, through my first 2 to 3 years of being Chief Executive with CAVA. So my personal thanks to you on that subject. Before you officially step down, I think it's really important we take this time to give you thanks. And I'd like to hand over to maybe Phil, who's probably the trustee you've been the longest serving with alongside Sheila, to give you thanks on the contribution that you've given both to the board and to Warwickshire and Solihull Community and Voluntary Action.
Well, no, Andrew. We joined the board at the same time, so we were rookie members in 2016. Boy, was it a fast learning curve for us both. What you brought to the board was huge knowledge and experience, particularly of local government, but also with your involvement with the Wildlife Trust and the school governing bodies. It's been personally a delight to work with you. We seem to be sympathetic to one another, possibly because of our local government backgrounds. There was almost an inevitability, second guessing about what was going on in each other's minds during that period. And it was amazing the amount of times where we thought similarly. And you're one of these people that I don't want to sit opposite in a board meeting, because facial expressions can tell an awful lot, can't they? So I enjoyed the chair vice chair relationship with you throughout that period up until last year. I particularly appreciated your commitment to a very visible board, because prior to your takeover as chair, I don't think the board was terribly visible. You've been particularly concerned to create effective partnerships, and I use the word partnership carefully as well, with the local government bodies, with health, and with all of our allies. You support the organisation in taking its opportunities and in growing. So the challenge that was provided by COVID, you responded to very, very positively. And in a strange kind of way, COVID formed a challenge for the organisation, which could easily have been missed, but wasn't due to your guidance along with the chief executives. Also, you supported and forged the developing relationship with Solihull, which didn't exist when we joined the board in 2016. You've worked with 3 chief executives, and you've appointed 2 of them. And that's been a really successful process. Not an easy one, as many people who run charitable organisations know to their own cost. But we've had 3 really good chief executives during that period, and you've worked very effectively with all of them. So what are the qualities that you've brought to us? Well, you're a careful and thoughtful leader. You operate with consensus. You make sure the board is talking to one another and agreeing. But still, you have that very gentle, challenging approach, which means things happen in a developmental kind of way. I'm delighted that you're going to continue to give us help as the vice chair. I'm looking forward to seeing Claire as the chair, and I'm looking forward to the teamwork that the board has developed over the last few years continuing. So very many thanks on behalf of the whole board and all of the beneficiary organisations that have been involved with CAVA over the years. Many thanks, Andrew. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Phil. I'll invite Andrew to give his words as well in a moment, but just for the importance of the meeting, we now move into that period where we will formally ask Andrew to step down as chair whilst we move towards not naming our new chair. Andrew, if you're able, if you want to give a few words, please do, but if then you can follow that with stepping down,
Sure.
that would be helpful from an AGM perspective.
Yeah, sure, Karen. Thank you. And Phil, thanks for those very kind words. I'm always conscious that CAVA's advice to volunteers is don't do it unless you're going to enjoy it. And I can say, you know, honestly, truthfully, hand on heart, I've really enjoyed being both trustee and chair of CAVA. I've seen the organisation thrive and rise up to meet challenges. And as Phil says, perhaps nothing more than the role that CAVA played during the COVID epidemic. And it was the forging, I think, of real genuine partnership, collaboration, working together with public bodies that I think made the response in Warwickshire particularly strong. I really enjoyed the huge cross-section of people that I've met both inside and outside CAVA, and I'm going to continue looking forward to that during the remainder of my time as a trustee with CAVA. I'm sure that both the sector and CAVA will continue to address and meet the challenges that we know about, and the many I'm sure that we don't know about. So with those words, I will formally step down as chair.
Thank you, Andrew. You can breathe out and go and get yourself a cup of coffee. No, I'm joking. Just for everybody in the meeting, for your information, we don't actually lose Andrew. He's stepping down as chair, and he has another year to serve with CAVA as trustee, which he has agreed to stay on for another year and do so. So we thank you, Andrew, for staying on with us for the next year to see out your full term. With that, moving forward, as part of our succession planning, and we've spent a lot of time looking at how we can ensure the board is sustainable and we can have a consistent approach to the future. The board have identified Claire Spires, who's our current vice chair, who has thankfully agreed to move into the chair role. And therefore, I'm delighted to announce that and propose, I don't propose Claire as incoming chair, but if we could have a proposal from the floor, from one of the trustees themselves, because this is a trustee decision, to do this role. If we could have a proposer, that would be great. And then a seconder, please.
I'm happy to propose as chair, Karen. If we can
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Jane, Al, do we have a seconder?
Cheryl seconded.
Thank you. So Claire, may I be the first to welcome you as the new chair to CAVA. Thank you so much for what you've already done. And I look forward to working with you as your chief executive over the coming years to take CAVA to the next stage of its life. On that, I guess my first duty then is to invite you to take your seat, Claire, and yes, lead us through the process of what's left of this meeting. Thank you. I'll hand back over to you, Claire. Actually, I have one more thing I need to do, which apologies for not doing that before I hand over to Claire, is invite Claire also to appoint her new vice chair. Thank you. Over to Claire.
Lovely. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Phil, for those fabulous words for Andrew, and many thanks to Andrew as outgoing chair. And I do look forward to leading the board into the next phase of CAVA's work. My first duty, as Karen mentioned, is for the board to select a vice chair. I think we've had a few spoilers there, but I think we know what's going to happen there. So, which is a role I've undertaken for the last year. Karen, could you please take us through the process to elect a new vice chair to the board?
Thank you. Once again, I refer back to some of the planning that we've been doing behind the scenes with the board in terms of consistency and succession planning. And as part of that transition, the board have agreed and nominated Andrew Gabbitas to serve for 1 year as chair until he finishes next year, so that we can have that transition and move into a space with a new incoming vice chair at the next AGM. If I could ask for somebody to nominate, because as a chief executive, I'm not able to nominate. I'm not officially a trustee. So if I could have a nominator, a seconder, and all of those in favour from the board, please. Claire, I think we could probably take you as the nominator.
Yes, absolutely. I was just checking the chat. Yeah. Do we have a seconder for Andrew as vice, please? Brilliant. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Claire. Back over to you.
So to update members that over the coming year, the board will be reviewing its current legal name to ensure it remains relevant and reflects the scope of work and geography the organisation delivers. An update will be given at the next AGM. This concludes the business of this meeting. I will now give thanks to our partners, funders, staff, members and trustees before we formally close this meeting. A vote of thanks to everybody involved with CAVA. I'm always in awe of all the hard work and dedication of everybody involved. So a huge thank you and well done to everybody, particularly in terms of some of the results we've seen today. So I'm just going to share with you a list of funders that we want to say thank you to also. So thank you to Awards for All, Birmingham and Solihull ICS, Bishopton, Community Centre, Coventry and Warwickshire ICS, Coventry and Warwickshire Partnership Trust, Local Trust, NAVCA, Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, Orbit, Rugby Borough Council, Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council, South Warwickshire Place Partnership, Stratford District Council, Stratford Town Council, Stratford Town Trust, the Kennet Community Centre, Warwick District Council, and last but certainly not least, Warwickshire County Council. Thank you. And thanks everybody for attending. I think that brings us formally to a close. Thank you to everybody. Unless we have any questions, I think that we could open up for any questions that anybody may have at this stage. Either use the chat or you could come off mute if you wish. No, that's super. Thank you, everybody. You happy to close, Karen?
It's like we've had lots of thank yous rather than questions, so
Yeah.
I think we'd be safe to close the meeting. Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.